My final Heroes of Might and Magic 5 factions tier list. I've definitely updated them a few times before, but with the new Heroes game coming out, I think this is going to be my final one, just to really solidify where I think these towns are. So please do not forget to like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments where you guys would place your favorite and least favorite towns or factions in Heroes 5. And let us get started. I think we can all agree, minimum, that if not the strongest, but one of the strongest towns in this game is Silven, for sure. I think their the way their creatures are set up is perfect for them. They have great backline attackers, I think probably the best in the game for sure. And then to mold into that some great frontline tanks between the unicorns and Trents, and then the dragons too. Blade dancers are high attack, low defense, but I just think their entire army works so well. They mesh so beautifully compared to some others. I think again, there so many of their creatures are some of the best in the game. I think hunters are great, Trents are great, druids are great. Blade Dancers can be, as a tier 1 with sprites, they're great. I do think a little bit they can struggle with some resources, but again, that just kind of depends on the map and the layout and everything like that. Obviously, depending on the map, who's playing them, and everything like that, some of these towns can be S tier or, all the way fucking D, let's be real. But overall, consistently, Sylvan is fantastic. Definitely one of the best in the game. Now, my favorite Necropolis, I gotta put them in S2. Obviously, they used to be absolutely broken back in the day. They did nerf them, but they are still super, super strong in my opinion. I think just the fact how easy it is for them to build up their army, which is arguably one of the most important things in the game, um, to have the biggest and best army is pretty insane. Not only with the necromancy and getting people naturally, but also, being able to use dark magic to uh, get some creatures into your army. I think they're strong. Now, their creatures themselves are not necessarily the strongest in the game. They do have some very good ones, and then they have some pretty weak and bad ones as well. But overall, I think Necromancy has always been a very strong ability in all of the Heroes games, and this one is no different. Um, and I also think overall, if you can get some, basically some sulfur and mercury, like you're good. Obviously, every single town kind of struggles with their own resources at times, but for the most part, you can get a lot of Necropolis units without really worrying too much about what resources you need or what you're lacking. But overall, I think they are super, super strong. I think the later the game goes, the bigger their army is going to be. Obviously, that's natural for anybody, but it really, they're next level in that, and I think that's arguably the most important part of the game, is obviously having the biggest and best army. And Necropolis definitely is one of those people. Honestly, we're gonna go 3 for 3 in S. As much as I am not a Haven fan, I have to give them the nod to S. I think they have so many things that make them a step up higher than everybody else. Not only with the taxpayer peasants getting you extra gold, like they probably arguably have the best econ in the game just because of that, gold econ minimum, because of that. And not only that, the training grounds as well to be able to get higher tier creatures, obviously just makes their army that much better. And at the same time, honestly, a lot of their creatures are pretty good. They do have some weak ones like the peasants, and definitely the priests are the worst tier 5 in the game. No question about that to me. Um, and I would say bone dragons are probably the worst tier 7, but it is what it is. Anyway, I think overall Haven is, there's nothing really too bad you can say about them to drop them down. I mean, arguably the best gold in the game, training grounds to increase, you know, the levels of creatures, which is great. A lot of their creatures are super, super strong and good and have nice abilities. I think a lot of their heroes are pretty good as well. Yeah, I think Haven is just a very strong pick, consistently strong in the game compared to some of the other ones. And that's kind of just where we're at is, you know, who is the most consistently good. Obviously, again, any of these towns can be great and be S tier depending on the situation, but consistently, these three are, I would say, a tier or two above everybody else. I think these are probably going to be the only S tier um, towns for sure. Now I'm gonna go on the flip side, and I think arguably the worst town in the game is Inferno. Um, don't get me wrong, every single town has its great benefits and, you know, greatness to them, but I think Inferno's gating, it's complicated. I'm not gonna say it's weak, but I think the fact that it takes up a turn really harms them because then whoever you gate is going to be weaker, which understandably so. But then still, as long as you kill all of the original Inferno creatures, which you can obviously tell who they are by the, you know, bar down there, um, I just think that that faction ability makes them not able to compete as well. Some of their creatures, though, I will admit, like the Devil and Pit Fiend, I would say are some of the best creatures in the game, straight up, period. Um, some of their other ones are okay, but not really like, you know, they're not that much greater than some of the other creatures, minimum at their tiers. Um, you know, their other creature tiers. But overall, I just think Inferno, they can't really consistently compete against some of these other towns. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, you know, gating is great, and I'm not denying that gating can be very good and very useful, but I just think it's a whole lot of risky play for an army that overall is not very good. Imps are great, but other than stealing mana, which is amazing early and mid game, not it's still good late game, but not as useful. Um, are not so great. Horned demons are not so great. Cerberus is gonna get you if they go unnoticed, then they're gonna be great, but you know, they're going to get you one great hit in the beginning and then they're pretty much gone. Um, Succubus, Chain Shot, and the Retaliation is okay, not amazing. The Hell Chargers are pretty good. I'd say they're a solid unit for sure. Like nothing really bad to say about them, but they're not like amazing. But then Pit Fiends or Devils are definitely great. So, you know, the higher you go, the better, which is how it should be, but yeah, as far as overall creatures comparison to some others, it's not there and the gating is not, so I have to put them probably at the lowest. I think they're arguably the worst in the game, unfortunately. Um, with that, we're going to put Dungeon with them. I think Dungeon is a little bit better, but just solely the fact that Dungeon has the lowest creature growth rate in the game, which is a fact, that automatically makes them not S tier. And I think the biggest reason why they're not even A is because everybody's going to be like, oh my god, what about Armageddon? Listen, it's the whole game, everybody, okay? Armageddon is great, you can't deny it, okay? But that cannot carry you, first off, until you get it, which is not early in the game, okay? Early in the game, they have, throughout the entire game, they have the lowest growth rate in creatures, but early and mid game, they definitely struggle. I do really like Dungeon. I like a lot of their creatures. I think their creatures are actually pretty good. I think, honestly, if they had a normal, or if not, like, higher growth rate than some of the other ones, that they would destroy everybody. Because honestly, their creatures are pretty good. Shadow Witches, I will always stand by, are the worst tier 6 in the game. But aside from that, um, that growth rate just destroys them. Um, they rely so much on hero spell damage, which is fine, but you know, your hero's only going to go so often, okay? And while Armageddon is great, until you get Armageddon, it's still that's still just not going to consistently save you. While I really like a lot of their creatures, I love Blood Maidens, I love Hydras, I like the Grim Raiders, I like the Minotaurs, they overall don't consistently compete against some of the other creatures. Blood Maidens are great, but they have pretty bad defense. Minotaurs are pretty decent overall as a tier 3, but they're not going to get into the fight often, and you know, they're not like super tanky or, you know, insanely devastating with their attack either. Grim Raiders are going to be great for, you know, a few turns, or if they go unnoticed, sure, but their defense isn't there. Hydras are great, but they're going to be destroyed, um, you know, like they're definitely a high value target to go with for sure. And they can carry you for sure, but they're one of the only few that can. You know, I think the invisibility with the scout assassins and stuff, and even with the shadow witches, I think is a little overrated for sure. I think that's the only reason why you can get through the early game, because if you don't use that, or you know, before it was 5.5 and that wasn't a thing, then, you know, dungeon was even more worse than it is. So yeah, I think the growth rate absolutely destroys them. Um, Yeah, it's just hard to come back from already having such a low creature amount. And if you go against some neutral creatures or even another enemy player and, you know, you win, but you take massive losses, which you probably will with Dungeon, it's so hard to come back from that. You know, with somebody like Necropolis, if you lose a lot of your people, it's a lot easier to get those people back. Even with Haven, you know, being able to train them up again, like it's a little bit harder than Necropolis, of course, because Necropolis can outpace everybody. But still, there's possibilities of still getting your people back a lot quicker than Dungeon's low-ass growth rate. But we'll switch it up and we will go Fortress. Now, I am not a Fortress fan. I absolutely hate them. But you definitely have to give them the nod to A. I think early to mid game they struggle because those creatures are terrible. I think they arguably have the best last three creature group um, compared to a lot of the others. I think the Rune Priest Stained and those fucking lizards are insane. I think they probably have the best tier 7 in the game. But the biggest reason why they aren't an S is because that early to mid game they really struggle. Their early game creatures are not very good. The Guardians as tier 1 is okay. The Spearmen are terrible tier 2s. Bear Riders are decent, you know, they're not bad by any means. The Brawlers are like, they're mid, like super, super mid. Um, and then they start getting good. Um, but that's the biggest reason why they're not really an S, but I will say they definitely deserve an A for sure. Not only one because of the runes, which again doesn't come into until the later the game goes is when they really are worth it. But at the same time, they have the free defensive guardian stack when you're defending as a town, which I do think is important. It's definitely very good. And then again, back to the runes. I think the runes are very, very strong and useful for them for sure. I just think that, you know, until you get to those later, like late mid game or late game points with Fortress is when they're going to really start excelling. When you have all these rune casting spells, when you if you have to defend the town, you have a, a free other stack, which, you can't say anything bad about it. It's fucking free. But until you get to that point, I think their army overall is pretty weak, until you get to those last few units. They do, again, have some great high tier units for sure. But yeah, I think the whole rune thing definitely saves them. And yeah, I can't put them in S just because they can't really compete until it is late game, if it gets to that point. If it gets, you know, to the late game, then they're a problem for sure. But until then, like, even compared to some of the people under them, like, early game, those Blood Maidens are gonna destroy them for sure. Um, and, even Cerberus come eat them up. Even if we're going a little bit higher and going to some other tier units, like there's so many people, the hunters are going to one-tap anybody on there. Squires and archers are fucking great, let alone griffins. Ghosts and vamps are, some great ass units as well. Like, they just can't compete until later. So, can't go S. Definitely deserves the A though. Academy, I gotta put Academy in B. And if you're still here watching, I super appreciate it. I think a lot of this comes from, if you have not seen my dual mode series, all of the fights, you definitely see how good and bad creatures truly are. Obviously, some of that is just kind of, it's not as great as a, you know, full-blown reason, because obviously it's dual mode, so it's a little bit different. It's AI, so that's a little bit different. Um, but overall, you see that a lot of these creatures, how good and bad they truly are. And the biggest reason why Academy is down here in B, and I might even, I'm trying to kind of put this in order, so this is how I think it goes as far as true greatness in the game. Um, but biggest reason Academy is in B and not any higher. One, overall their creatures are not great. Okay. Biggest reason that carries them anywhere is the artifacts. Now, you can get the artifact creator relatively early in the game for sure, but that absolutely carries them. If they did not have that, or you're not using it well, or you don't have the resources to create the artifacts, or whatever it may be to where the artifacts are not there, you're fucked, okay? Your army is not good, like, overall. And don't get me wrong, like, I might shit on a lot of these towns, but truly, as much as I don't like a lot of the towns, I can definitely respect that there are a lot of good things about them, or a lot of good creatures. I hate Haven, okay? But they're definitely one of the best in the game. It's just how it is. I hate Fortress, but I have to give them the nod because they are good. Um, and I don't even hate Academy. I actually like a lot of their creatures, but they're weak. That's just how it is. Gremlins, they're alright. They're a tier 1. They're not going to carry the game. I do like the repair mechanism that they can give to the golems. Gargoyles, the magic immunity is great. Same with the golems. But aside from that, gargoyles are not very good. Golems are definitely pretty good. I think they're a very strong tier 3. Gens are way too inconsistent, and just kind of this weird utility that, yeah, they're just overall not good. Rakashas, they can be very, very great, but again, I think the biggest thing that carries them to said greatness is artifacts. And if they don't have that, I think they are super overrated units. I do like them. I'm a fan of them, okay? But overall, consistently, they're not very great. unless you have the artifacts. Um, but even with the artifacts, like I think overall Academy is not just, they're not that great. That definitely carries them. The mages are amazing, can be super devastating. I really like that the Titans are one of the only tier 7s that are actually a backline shooter. The only other one is Cyclops, if you even use that version. So that's cool. But honestly, Titans really don't do shit. Like they're not very devastating. They're pretty tanky, but like yeah, their shots are not. They don't feel as good as a tier 7 should from a backline shot perspective. So yeah, I can't put Academy very high because while you can get the artifact creator pretty early, and you're most likely going to have whatever resources you need to create whatever artifact you want, that carries them so much. And I might even put them as the higher one in B. But still, man, their units just are, they can't compete consistently. They can't. And you can go, like I have the list right here as far as everybody's win-loss for my dual mode series. You probably can't see shit overall, but Academy's fucking slacking, okay? They're not that great. And again, I know that that's not everything, but it's an important thing to actually see and realize, okay, maybe they're not as great, or maybe they're better than I thought. So last but not least, the Stronghold. I'm putting them in A. Here's why. The reason why they're not in S and the reason why they're not in B2 is the Blood Rage. Okay? Overall, I think their creatures are actually super underrated. Pretty much all of them. Goblins suck, straight up. I think Centaurs are actually pretty good, but they're not amazing. They're just pretty good backline shooters for sure. But the Warriors, I think, are pretty underrated. Shamans, insanely underrated. So fucking good. Chieftains, very, very good. Very strong. Wyverns are not affected by Blood Rage, but honestly, if they were, that would make them insane. But they are super good tier 6s as well, and can definitely destroy a team. And then Cyclopses, I think, are some great tier 7s. Um, I think if you're using the club one, we've seen in the dual mode series that the club Cyclops kills more of their own units than enemy ones for the most part, but overall, very strong, very good. Um, the biggest reason why they're not in S is because if you don't have enough Blood Rage, your units aren't going to be amazing. Now, the biggest reason why they're not in B, if you do have some Blood Rage and the fight's going on long enough and you're destroying the other team, that Blood Rage is S tier worthy for sure. And absolutely just starts shredding people. Obviously, as you know, you're picking up spells and everything as your hero, you can increase Blood Rage and, make it much easier to obtain or even start with a relatively higher Blood Rage amount for sure. But overall, I think Stronghold is pretty solid. Um, I don't think they're S tier worthy because I do think that while I really like their creatures and I think they're overall underrated, I still don't think they're as good as some other towns. Again, I think some of that definitely goes into the Blood Rage issue, but I think that is a pretty cool thing that they added, compared to some of the other faction abilities, if you will. And I think that is just a huge thing with pretty much all of them being able to have these faction abilities that are different. The Necropolis can literally switch anybody that they get to an undead. That's amazing. The training grounds for Haven is amazing. The artifacts for Academy is amazing for sure. The slave thing is okay, definitely can pick up some extra gold here and there, but the Blood Rage is It's difficult to place, and that's why they're an A. So this is, again, my final Heroes of Might and Magic 5 Towns faction. We're going to be doing all of the creatures, one final list for each tier, so 7 videos, tier 1s, 2s, 3s. I hope you got that. So please do not forget to like and subscribe, check out all of those. Be sure to go back and see where I previously placed some of the other towns, previously creatures, and see what we're going to do for these final videos, because we are very ready for Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era to come out and to play that. So we will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget